I would regret it if people look back at the first episode and you weren't on it.
Yeah, well, I like that. It's called forward thinking.
We have one of the worst beats in the world. We do. Our beat is horrible.
Connor could shove that article up his ass.
And then I went to that game, and I was like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen in my life. I'm a Jet fan. This is going to be the greatest run ever. Yeah.
No, because if they take Ekwonu, I'm not complaining.
Joe Douglas is the king of keeping shit close to the vest.
A 2, a 4, and a 6 for Darnold?
Did the Jets really ruin Sam Darnold, or did Sam Darnold just suck all along and we were just trying to talk ourselves into it?
And Hamilton is a player who could potentially make a very big impact.
And suddenly here we are today, you can't get rid of him.
Right, it's like a plague.
Joe Douglas was hired because he's not those general managers.
Okay, Luscious.
Somebody is going to fall just like Elijah Moore did, just like Michael Carter did.
You know, what would, if you had one sentence to say to Joe Douglas, what would you say? So you would say, you had me at hello, and then give him a big old wet one right on the smack.
We are live. We got Harry W. We got Richie from Jets Media, Matt O'Leary, Iowa Jets fan, we're in the house. We got Dom C in the house. We got Steve, live, CEO of the Jet Lounge. So I knew I'd get rich on my channel. See what's going on. Yeah, there we go. Woo.
Let's go. Jets by $1 million today.
Yeah. Good morning, niece. Good morning, everybody. You know, sometimes we get up on Sunday and we drink coffee with a certain fellow, and he talks about Jets before the game, and he drinks his coffee, and we watch him enjoy it. He really enjoys that coffee. I mean, it's like he makes love to every sip. And it's Friday, and I don't really do coffee when I'm at work because, I don't like to use school bathrooms. So what I do is I drink Mountain Dew. That's how I get my caffeine. Mountain Dew. What's up, Grandizer? What's going on? Baba Booey. Man, I missed Howard Stern did something really funny yesterday. I got to hear the replay. My wife was telling me about it. He was making fun of his parents in a buffet, or his parents talking about a buffet of food, and I've got to hear it. Also, Mike Cause, what's going on, man? Good morning, Captain Chaos. That's me. I'm Captain Chaos, I guess. And good morning to you, Mike. And good morning to our resident Chiefs fan, Clutch. Good to see you here, buddy. So I got my Mountain Dew. I also got this. I don't get the regular Kit Kat. I get the white chocolate one. Ooh, for a second I got nervous. It looked orange in the screen. I said, don't tell me this is like some pumpkin edition or something. That would be disappointing. Just give me straight up 7:19 in the morning in California, white chocolate Kit Kat to start my day, and Mountain Dew. So my niece is going to say, Uncle Jeremy, I want you to be alive for my wedding. What are you doing to yourself? Oh, I'll go on a diet when the time is right. Jeremy, this should be a good week now that we have a manager at quarterback. He does spread the ball around. It makes us harder to defend. You're looking for the Jets to control the game from start to finish. Well, I got to tell you, Mike, I agree. If we can control the ball and spread the ball around and run the ball and be successful and sustain some long drives, that's, to me, a very obvious way. I mean, I know it's obvious. We're stating the obvious. How do you beat the Vikings? How do you beat any team? It's always good to be able to control the ball and keep the ball. But there are some teams where that's not the thing you're concerned about, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about it as much. When you're playing the Bears, you're not thinking, we got to keep them off the field. As a matter of fact, it was fun when our defense came on the field and we got to crush them. But against Minnesota, I don't want Justin Jefferson on the field all day. I want to limit their opportunities. I don't want Cook to be able to get into a rhythm. So I agree. We got to control the ball from start to finish. Make it a fast game. You know what I mean? Make it a fast game because we have the ball for long 7-8 minute drives, and oh my God, the half's over already. Make it that kind of game. At the Howard Stern, I don't know how I could send it to you. I don't even know how to do it. I have to like find a replay of it or something. Maybe somebody will stick it on YouTube, right? Like, do they do that? Do they chop up his show? Like, I don't know. I hope we can find it. I told my wife to record it, but she's like, how do you record Sirius Radio like that? She didn't know how to do it. A good effing morning. It's a good effing morning for some Mike effing White. We are 48 hours away. Well, 51 hours away. Frank Soma in Staten Island. Frank, have you been to the DeFaro pizza location in Staten Island yet? I forgot the name of it. The cup, like on the same block as that DeFaro pizza place. There's another pizza place, and Sack Exchange took me there, and Green Bean when we were in town. And the guy was born in America. He went back. He went to Napoli. He went back to Italy, and he stayed there for like a few years and learned how to make real Neapolitan pizza. And then he came back, and now he's in Staten Island on the same block as the DeFaro pizza guy. He's got a restaurant. And he makes these pizzas that are so freaking good. I can't believe I'm saying this because I grew up in Brooklyn. But you want the best pizza in the world? You go to Staten Island. Staten Island, baby. Best pizza in the world. And they got a Costco. Yep, they do. They've had one for a while. They used to have a Hooters on Highland Boulevard. I'm sure Frank used to go to that Hooters, baby. I don't know. I think they closed, but they used to be a Hooters. Jermaine Johnson needs to get more playing time. I agree. Funny that a Chief fan would say that. I was thinking about that coincidentally on my drive in. On my drive in, I really was thinking about it. I was thinking about, wow, our pass rush is so good. And I'm thinking, wow, Quinnen's getting all the sacks, and some of us predicted that he'd have the most sacks on the team only because the other guys would spread it around. And it's true. It's like because Huff is getting some, and Jermaine Johnson's got a couple, and, John Franklin Myers and Carl Lawson, and Michael Clemens, right? I mean, we've got so many guys. We got so many guys. And they're spreading the sacks, except for Quinnen in the middle gets his sacks, right? I think he's going to eat this Sunday. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like when, because these guys aren't going to stand out with a lot of sacks. And because they're all so good and they're rotating, they all don't get a lot of snaps. Jermaine Johnson gets very little snaps and is very productive in the snaps that he gets. And aside from playing him, like just from a numbers point to say, oh, I'd like him to get more sacks. Jermaine Johnson on the early downs, I love when I see him lined up. When I see 52 lined up there, I know he's going to set that edge. And that's something that we did not do for a long time on this team. Even last year, we did not. It was very frustrating. And it's nice to have somebody who knows how to set the edge. I mean, this is a guy who can, even if he gets Duke to go in, cut in, and they get around him, this is a guy who can turn and go out and get him. And there was a great video of that with, I think it was Josh Allen, when Josh Allen broke out to the outside. And so right at that moment, I'm like, Jermaine, you didn't set the edge. But then Jermaine bounces off his guy and runs out and gets him. And hits Josh Allen. I think he either sacked him or caused an intercept, whatever it was. But kind of crazy. Very good, Jermaine Johnson. He needs to be out there more, and he will. He's a rookie. They were just getting him started in his career. Next time, Staten Island has the best pizza. True. What does IMK stand for? I'm old, buddy. I'm old. Over the hill. LMK, like my kingdom. No. next time. So so let me use a context clue. That means like you'll go next time. You'll try it, or you don't know, or I don't know. You'll tell me. Grandizer, my guy. What's up, buddy? I think you've seen Vikes content creators too. Sorry. Yeah, I know. You always said I get it late. It's okay, man. It's hard to do collaborations like during the week for me because I work. You know what I mean? The other fellas could do it. When I know somebody that knows the other team, I'll do it. But like, it's hard to sync up and plan and to do a show with an opposing fan. And it's not like it gets that many it's not like it gets that much interest. I mean, the shows that we do where we meet up with other content providers for the other team don't necessarily get a tremendous amount of views. So it's okay. John Hepburn, what's going on? It's good to see you. Let's look at Frank's take on Mike White. Here's my take on Mike White. He's the real deal. Oh, I like that. He's going to play well. Coaches and GM worried about how fragile he is. Oh, okay. Hard to anoint him the franchise guy when he can get hurt on one play. Okay. Now, that makes a good argument of why if you stick with him, you don't cut Zach Wilson. You keep him around. But it's an interesting take. I mean, he does get hurt easily in this past. Like, he's had some injury problems. So that's why he's got to get rid of the ball. I like the way you say he's frail, but he is a small little guy, isn't he? He went home to his wife or his girlfriend after the game last Sunday, and she said, "Who the F are you?" It's a true story. She said, "Who the F are you?" So they don't know how this is happening. Yeah. Jermaine and Clemens, I mean, they're both so young, right? Well, Clemens is 25, but they're rookies. So, you know, Jermaine and Clemens on the edge are a nice thing for two rookies. Yeah, absolutely. We're crazy good in that position. Crazy good. What's it? Is the place going to blow up? What's going on? Okay. I'm located in a high school right now, so it's kind of weird. Iowa has the best pizza. We know that's not true. If anything, Jacob, you could claim that Iowa has the best breakfast pizza. Okay? Iowa Jet fan we were talking about breakfast pizza. So you guys can lay claim to that. I never heard a New Yorker run out of his way to scream and defend breakfast pizza in New York. In California, they have salad pizza. And if you're saying, ew, you're right. It's disgusting. Oh, let me know. LMK is let me know. So I have to, okay, let me know, do this. I will definitely let you know as soon as I get the name of it. If I don't know if you follow Steve Sack Exchange on Twitter, he's a guy that can tell you too. But I could, I think he sent me a picture when he first told us about the place, or I could just send him a DM. I could DM him. I didn't know what that meant too. I just went along with it. Okay, I'll DM you. No idea what I was saying. I'll DM you. I'll DM you my information. DM. Yes, I'm hip. I'm young. I know what that means. I mean, I know what to do. That means I should send him the information. But don't worry, I figured it out. At one point, I realized, direct message. Direct message. I mean, back in my day, instant message was a big term, right? Text message. Now it's direct message. It's hard to keep up with all this. It's a great situation for him because of the rotation. It wasn't that we needed a rookie to produce at such a high level, and he's fitting into the program and developing actually at a better place. At a better pace, maybe? Well, are you talking about, I assume you're talking about JJ. So that's cool. I'd like to see Zach work with Steve Young on the offseason. Mike White keeps playing like last week and we were Super Bowl bound. Well, yeah. if you play like the best quarterback in the NFL, because remember that game against Chicago, it was against Chicago, but if he plays like that, if he like, I'm assuming you mean, let's say he put up those numbers the rest of the year, greatest quarterback in history, because understand, no quarterback in the entire year, this entire season, had a better game statistically if you go by quarterback rating than Mike effing White against Chicago. It was the highest rated quarterback performance of the year. So if he was to play like that, based on that rating, on that number, if he continues to play at a 149 quarterback rating, yeah, we're not losing again, guys. We're not losing, especially with that defense. But that's a big state. Like really realistically, we're not going to get that out of Mike White, but maybe he's good. I think Jet fans are so afraid to believe it. And then they go crazy if you do. Like Matt B, if he was in here, he'd be freaking out right now. He's not good. He's not good. First of all, calm down. You're a Jet fan. You're supposed to hope he's good. Second of all, just like you are right to say that no Jet fan could know that Mike White is that good and will be that good for the rest of the year, you have no rights to say that he won't be good for the rest of the year. Nobody really for sure knows. That's the reality. We're fans giving our opinions. But I think we should all be hoping that Mike White goes absolutely ballistic for the rest of the year and does this. Like, let's hope it's one of those magical stories for New York, right? Like, remember Jeremy Linsanity? Crazy story. Whoa, who is this kid? He's putting up 8 to 10 assists a game, 25 points a game out of nowhere. Was the number 13 man on the roster. Right? Came in and did this. Like, let's hope that's the case. Why can't we at least hope for it? It's bad enough we never get it as Jet fans. We can't at least hope for it. We're not allowed to sit there and say, please, let us have this miracle story. Let us have this story, let us have this make a movie out of it moment. You know what I mean? Where one day in 30 years, 20 years, there's a Mike White movie. The story of Mike White, drafted in the mid rounds, couldn't make the rotate, got cut by Dallas. I think he got cut by someone else. Comes on to the Jets, plays this great game, gets hurt in the next game, puts up a stinker versus the best team. So the star, like, imagine the movie, and then the star comes back in. Of course, they'll make Zach the biggest idiot like that in 20 years from now. He'll be that arrogant, because that's what movies have to do to be entertaining. So he'll be like arrogant, and it'll be obnoxious and everything, and say, "Who did you ever think? In what world could you ever replace me as the quarterback of the New York Jets?" They'll do something like that, and then in the movie, that arrogant quarterback struggles and has a bad game, and he gets his next chance. And this time there was no tough game against Buffalo. This time he was not going to lose his opportunity, and he rises up and wins Super Bowl rings. Wouldn't that be a great movie? Can we live that? Just for once, could we live the dream? Mike White had the highest pass rating of any quarterback during any week. I think that's good. You think? Not good enough for some Jets fans. Some Jets fans are like, they're going to lose. He stinks. Honestly, the defense being a little lackluster in the beginning of the last game was cause they were just shocked that the offense was scoring and giving them leeway. I think that they some teams, not only come out flat, but just game plan. Like, remember that Chicago schemes, the first drive is always very scripted. And a lot of times, you come out with a scripted game plan. We see offenses score 7. You think they're going to put up 35 points that game because they do it so easily. And then as soon as the scripted part ends and the adjustments are made, everything changes. So I think the first drive, the Jets weren't ready. The second drive, they missed some tackles. It wasn't so much the scripted drive they couldn't stop. It was some missed tackles, but they pulled it together. And then, well, the rest of the game was history. right? So that was that. Zach Wilson is antagonistic in the Mike White movie. Zach Wilson is the antagonistic in the White movie. Well, he has to be, right? Doesn't he? The antagonist. Doesn't he have to be though? Like right? If you were doing the movie, because the movies based on real life stories are always completely embellished. It's never, like there's tons of things to make it more entertaining as a movie. I mean, to make it more entertaining, like obviously, Zach White has to be the antagonist, right? Like he has to be, even if he's behind the scenes in real life. He's great to Mike White, and they're friends, and he's encouraging him. You can't. That doesn't make it interesting in the movie. What makes it interesting if he's an asshole? I hope you suck. Like he's putting like Vaseline on the balls before the game. Like that makes more sense. Twisted is here. What's going on, Twisted? You made it. What took you so long, man? What's up with you? How come you never know when I'm going to be on? It's like you don't even know. It's like you're acting like I don't even put up a schedule. What is wrong with you, Twisted? What is wrong with you? Look at that. I forgot. Jacob Finnegan, you're a snacker? Thanks, man. By the way, I want to point out Jacob Finnegan is a snacker. You see that little mark next to his name? That means he joined the channel. That means for a few bucks a month, the price of a cup of coffee. Stole that. Price of a hot dog at 7-Eleven in the morning. Okay, for the price of the double cheeseburger I ate on the way into work this morning that I got at an AM PM gas station food stop. For that, you support and become a sponsor of the channel, and it's only that one double cheeseburger every month. That's all it is. Twisted is also a snacker. I should point that out too. New England 6-6, like I knew. Yeah, they're finally starting to show who they are. The problem is why the hell did we lose to them? We need to just win, right? We need to just win and be 8-4, and they'll be 6-6, and we'll have that 2-game cushion against them. And I don't think they're going to do very good the rest of the way because they still got some more tough games ahead of them. Belichick is the antagonist of every Jets movie, regardless if he's in it or not. Yeah, well, Belichick would be in it. He would be in it like in the beginning as the opposing nasty-looking coach when, Zach plays poorly. And he'd be like the guy saying, no one on that side can touch us. I got schemes. And, he'll be really evil about it and, yelling, nothing, ha-ha. And it'll turn out on that penalty that was never called on the punt return where they illegally blocked us from the back, so that game should have went into overtime. It'll turn out, like in the movie version, that Belichick was distracting the ref or something. Like he had guys at mirrors reflecting light in the referee's eyes or something like that. So you're right. I mean, but you could have two antagonists because, like in the movie Waterboy, you had the coach on the other team that was the antagonist, right? And you also had, that was like Henry Winkler's enemy, right? That was his guy to hate. And Adam Sandler's guy to hate, other than Colonel Sanders, the chicken professor, he had the quarterback on the team that would make fun of him and was awful to him, right? So there were multiple people to hate. He loves them. Thank you, Jacob Finnegan. This is a man named Jacob Finnegan. Twisted, I don't know, man. I go out for a coffee and I return and you're live. My crystal ball must be broken. You went out for a coffee. Well, I went out for a Mountain Dew. That's my coffee, brother. A bottle of Mountain Dew, 20 ounces of Mountain Dew every morning for me. What could possibly go wrong? Especially when I'm eating Kit Kats to balance it out. I mean, what's going to go wrong? Ming from Flash Gordon. Wait a second. People from Ireland know about Flash Gordon, the movie? New England 6-6. Yep, swept us for absolutely no reason. Yeah, well, they swept us because Zach didn't just have a bad game. Zach was not functional. And I'm not beating him up because I got two of the guys' jerseys. I have a green on black and I have a white. My one white jersey is a Zach Wilson jersey. It's a large. It doesn't fit. Probably because I'm drinking Mountain Dew and eating Kit Kats every morning. But when I go on my diet, it will fit. And all my extra large jerseys are going to be too big. So the reality is that as painful as it is, even if you're the biggest Zach fan, everybody knows I love Zach Wilson. As painful as it is to say, he wasn't functional. It wasn't just he had a bad game against New England. He was not functional. The biggest mistake that I will point back to, and maybe they will too, maybe they know it now, the fact that they didn't bench Zach Wilson somewhere in the third quarter is disgraceful coaching. Like disgraceful. Like they're in another world. Like how did they not see it? And I'm not talking about his numbers or his stats. If you look back at it now, he was literally in quicksand. This kid was dying. He was dead inside. He had nothing. He had no answer. He had the yips. He was... I don't know what the yips are, but it's so fun to say. He had the yips. He couldn't throw a ball 5 yards. Like he was done. There was no Zach Wilson. He couldn't do it. In that moment, I'm not saying ever again, but in that moment, he was done. I see it all the time with students, with me, and like where when you're done, like at that point, an 85-year-old man could come over and beat me up right now because I'm done. Like done in whatever you're doing. Like I have no chance to be successful. I have totally come out of who I am. You need, when you're like that in life, you need someone to save you. And by save you, I mean take you out of the situation and say, sit down. You ever have that happen? You're sick or whatever it is. You're not yourself. Someone comes over and says, hey, man, sit down. And they're not doing it to threaten you or to have you in trouble. You know they're a friend. They're saying, sit down, come with me, let's leave, let's get out of here. Right? That's what the coaches did not do for Zach Wilson. If I had one criticism of Saleh, it's that he didn't, in that New England game, rescue Zach Wilson. Rescue him. And say, instead, it became a whole thing where he let this kid that was in the back of his brain, fight or flight mode, totally no control, go into a press conference, lose his teammates by saying something stupid because he was not himself, and nobody rescued him. If we wouldn't have had to bench him. It wouldn't have had to be like a punishment. It could have been, I'm here to help you, bro. Kid. It's falling apart on you. We need to sit you down. You need to breathe. That's all they had to do. This is not you. It's not who you are. This is not the quarterback we drafted. This is not who you are. You are panicking right now. You are not yourself. And you cannot do this. And that's okay. You're young, and we're going to help you. And you sit him down. And you bring in whoever the backup was. I think it was Mike White at the moment. Right? Because Flacco was inactive. You tell Mike White, hey, we need you, man. Not to be a hero. It's 3-3. We just need you to run the offense. And after what you saw against Chicago, I don't care if New England's defense is better than Chicago's defense. We were poised. Our defense put us in a position to dominate that game. New England's defense is not that good. Look what Minnesota did to them the next week. Everybody scores against New England. Okay? They're not that good. Smart coach, well coached, not that good. Okay, they're not shut you down to 3 points good. Right? We just had a dysfunctional quarterback who needed to be replaced. Mike White was the perfect guy because he wasn't going to come in and try to be a hero. We just needed someone to execute the plays. Oh, quick pass right over there to Berrios. Oh, right up the middle, a quick, nice little pass to Tyler Conklin so he can run with the ball. Oh, they forgot to cover Denzel Mims. Maybe I should throw the ball to him. because he's wide open in the middle of the field, waving his arms like this because nobody's covering him, right? Mike White, whether you like him or not, whether you believe in him or not, whether you think he could do it against a real defense or not, Mike White could have made that throw, and he would have. We would have won the game. And not only would we have won the game, we would have saved Zach Wilson's confidence. We would have made it better because we saved him from the living out that fourth quarter and how that looked. We would have saved him from that. We would have saved him from that press conference because Mike White would have finished that game, Zach wouldn't have had to do that press conference. It would have been Mike White. And then Zach, we could have rushed back to the locker room. And we could have told him, we're going to give you a week and a half, 2 weeks off. You can win your job back, but we're going to give you some time off because something happened to you. And we can never let that happen to you again. That's what should have happened, folks. It's not about Mike White better or worse or whatever. Humans are human and have breakdowns. Zach had a breakdown. He had a breakdown. And he needed help. And nobody stepped up and helped him. They let him go into that press conference and make it even worse. Should never have happened like that. You have to recognize when a person needs help. They failed Zach Wilson. They did. They failed him. That's their biggest mistake as a coach. If you said, like the coaching staff, and it's got to be on Saleh. And I think maybe he knows it deep down. He might know it. But if you say, what's the one thing? Because I think a lot of the things we criticize Saleh for are false. We don't take it back. Everything he did last year that we criticized him for, we were wrong. Because he told us, I have a plan. And everything he said happened. But you will never convince me that it was not a mistake to leave him in that game. And it's not just Saleh. Saleh takes the blame because he's the head coach. Okay? LaFleur's up in the box. He doesn't know what's going on, right? But he could see. He could see the way Zach's playing. So he could have said, hey, can someone check on my kid, my boy? Can someone check on Zach? I'm watching from up here, and there's open guys all over the field. Can somebody check and see what's going on with him? This is what happens when you have young coaches, though. Right? They don't have life experience. Life experience to understand that this went beyond football. Zach Wilson was having a life issue. Okay? He was in, like, literally a panic attack. Literally. He was having a panic attack. Not an intense small one that some people have, like for like 10 seconds they can't breathe. He was having a lighter symptom, so he wasn't like hyperventilating, longer term panic attack. He was not in the right part of his brain for 45 minutes to an hour, and that is damaging because somebody needed to save him from that. That's where you have to worry about somebody from a personal level. When they're allowed to stay in that state for such a long time and nobody helps them. That's scary because we have a thing with our students. When you let that happen to one of your students here, like in our school, have those kinds of long episodes and nobody helps them and they're upset for a long period of time and allowed to make it worse. Nobody helps them. Nobody stops them. And they're going around campus, maybe getting into a fight, throwing chairs, getting into more and more trouble, having it escalate. That is damaging. That makes it harder to help them recover later. Someone needed to rescue Zach Wilson much earlier in that game, and nobody came to his aid. And that's the biggest mistake our coaching staff has made. If you want to point out any mistake, the mistake was not helping him when he needed it the most. That kid needed to have come out of that game, win or lose. Even if it meant losing, even if we didn't have Mike White, even if Mike White came in and stunk it up, it doesn't matter. It was beyond football at that point. This is your young guy. You want to take care of your young quarterback? You got to take care of your young quarterback. You don't just leave him in there. Some people say, oh, leave him in there, stick it out. That's what Chris Sims was saying. Get the reps. Well, Chris Sims is not a life person. He's a football player. That doesn't mean he's not educated in life. See, it's not just football. These are human beings. And the quarterback position, most of all, is more than just football. It's so mental. You've got to take care of the mental health of your quarterback. You should take care of the mental health of all your players, but especially your quarterback. And when someone is at their worst and they need help, you need to help them. And no one knew, even his dad, Zach Wilson's father, called him up and said, "What are you doing?" After the press conference. The answer was, nobody is helping him. You let him go out to the press in that state of mind. Think about it. If someone you love was having a complete panic attack or freaking out and they weren't being themselves, they weren't themselves. They were irrational. They weren't behaving right. They weren't able to do things they normally are able to do. Would you let them drive a car? Would you let your loved one get in a car and drive when they were upset or something wasn't going right? Let's say they're dropping things. They're not themselves. Would you let them drive a car? Of course you wouldn't. You'd say, you got to calm down. You can't just get in the car and drive. Every time I rushed to the hospital when my wife was sick, people were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Do you need me to drive you? You can't get in the car. I need you to stop, Jeremy, and calm down. You can't jump in your car and start driving right now. You're literally hyperventilating. You need to breathe. That's true story, by the way. True story. They're human beings. He's a young human being. He's 23 years old. The biggest mistake Saleh has done as a head coach, and I love Robert Saleh, and I think he would own up to it. His biggest mistake was he did nothing to protect his quarterback in that New England game. They should have taken him out of the game. Simple as can be. Not even it wasn't even about the game at that point. It's like talking myself into knowing that. I didn't even think about that when I started this take. But the more I talk about it, the more I realize they needed to take him out for him. They needed to do it for him, for the person. And they didn't. And they let him go out there. And I think it's everything Zach said when he said, no, I'm not taking a spot. A lot of that is on the coaching staff because she shouldn't have been out there. Because I guarantee you, if Zach would have been brought into the locker room, Mike White finishes out that game, doesn't matter how the game ends, and the press would have talked to Zach Wilson the next morning, I guarantee you he would have said, I got to be better than that. And I let my team down. Guarantee you. But they let him out when he was still in the wrong state of mind. So he got defensive because he was in fight or flight mode. It's a real thing. He was still in fight or flight mode. And fight or flight mode means you either stand and fight like he did with the press. No, I'm not sorry. Right? Or it's flight. You run around, you run away and not want to talk. In that situation, it would have been better if he was in flight mode and just took the fine for not being willing to do a press conference. Do I think his ADHD has anything to do with it? Very possibly. A lot of these things are linked. Because when ADHD is one of the problems or one of the challenges with ADHD, and I'm speaking as an expert on it, and someone who's taken classes and is very well trained in it, and also is ADHD. I've gotten into a lot of trouble in my life because of my ADHD, because of my impulsiveness. You guys may have seen it on the show. You may have seen me on a stream say something that Jeremy didn't mean to say that. He'd love to take that back. Right? ADHD, one of the symptoms of it, one of the ways it shows is impulsiveness. Right? Not stopping to think, not stopping and breathing. And so while Zach not only is in that state of he's upset, his world was collapsing, he couldn't throw a football. Now this guy, as he's in this state of mind, is saying, is it your fault? Because that's what he was basically asking. When he says, did you let the defense down? Let's cut the shit. He was saying, is it your fault that you lost? When you're in that mode of fight or flight and you're impulsive, the first thing you do, what do you do when someone throws a big punch at you and you flinch if you're not a fighter? What's this mean? What's your hands going up mean? What's your body doing? Why does your body put its hands up? What is it doing? It's defending itself, right? So whether you're physically defending yourself or whether you're verbally defending yourself, the instinct when you're in that mode, when you're in fight or flight, when you're not using your brain, when you're not calm and collected and thinking, but you're just reacting, is defensive. That's what you saw Zach do. He was just defensive. No, The next day, what did he say? He goes, as soon as I had the flight and as soon as I had time to realize what I had done, I wanted to fix it. And then he did the apology to the locker room, and he did. Hopefully, we don't know the locker room because we don't know that the other kids, because that's what they are, they're kids. To me, an old guy like me, they're kids. I don't know if those kids understand what happened to Zach, but hopefully they took his apology. But yeah, ADHD, it's an interesting thing because the medication for it would not be good for him. Like that's a problem. That has its issues. And having to deal with it is going to impact some of the game. It could also be used to help him because sometimes you could use your ADHD to really help you focus, believe it or not, and really lock into something. And I think that when you see him having an amazing game and he's on and he's in rhythm, that might be the ADHD doing the opposite. He's super focused. He's hyper focused. That's what he needs to do is how do I take my ADHD and make it an advantage and be hyper focused? Yes, we are winning, and that is important. Yeah, it does show his weak. Well, Ron P., I think the weakness might be just inexperience in youth himself, right? Like he was so competitive in that moment, and he believed so much in Zach as a player, he didn't see him as a person. And I think that's what happened. I would not be surprised if Salah knows that right now and is completely aware of it. Because he looked pretty remorseful every time he talks about Zach Wilson. So, yeah, I didn't see the third mic, but I saw 2 illegal blocks in the back. So we should have definitely, I don't want to complain about it. I want to be that guy. But it is amazing how the referees, either their calls or their non-calls, impact our game. But here's E-Rock. Well, it is a head coach's decision during the game, though, because there is no Joe Douglas. The head coach, once that game starts, is trusted to make the right decisions. So you're saying it's not a solid middle of the game decision. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Look, I'm an assistant principal, and a lot of times my principal's off site, and I have to make every decision. When I have to make decisions during school hours, when it involves the safety of my kids, it is not an organizational decision. I don't go to my superintendent when I have to make a decision. We have meetings as an organization, and organizational decisions are made about how we're going to be trained to handle situations. But when the shit hits the fan and something's happening, I am the boss. I am the one responsible for my staff and my students. Me. When that game starts, there is no organization. Salah is king once that game starts. There is no Joe Douglas. There is no Woody Johnson. They don't exist. They exist in the meetings in the building before the games when they make strategies and drafts and all that stuff. The head coach is the CEO, the president, the king. And it was his job, his responsibility. It was. If something's going on, if a player is hurt, you have doctors that tell you information, and then you have to make a decision. Is it what you ask him the obvious questions? Could he do further damage? Is it risky to keep playing him? Or is it just pain management, right? Common sense questions. But at the end of the day, who makes the decision? He doesn't get on the phone and call the owner. If the doctor says, yes, he can play, but it's going to hurt a lot, but I don't think it's going to increase the risk, but he's in a lot of pain, and this and that, and this is why, the coach then says, okay, based on what you're telling me, I'm going to do this. And guess what? If we go up by 3 touchdowns, the coach might say, pull him out. I don't want him to feel pain for no reason. Or because he's in pain, he might compensate and might hurt some other part of his body, right? The point is, it is the decision. It is Salah in that moment's decision to say something is wrong with my young quarterback. I need to pull him out of the game. I'm not saying bench him for the long term. That is organizational. After the game's over, what we're going to do next week, maybe he goes to Joe Douglas. Maybe that's organizational. Maybe not. It depends on how every organization in the structure is different. But during the game, It's not like Solid gets on the phone and calls anyone to make a decision. No, he's the guy they're trusting to make the decision. So he's the guy that can go to Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson afterwards and say, I sat Zach because he was having a panic attack on the field. And he was. He was. The best way to say it is like by color. Sometimes we're in the blue. We're mellow. We're chill. We're very – no, blue is actually sad. We're actually calm and too mellow, right? I think it's green is we're feeling good, high energy. Yellow is we're lower, a little lower energy, but we're okay. Red is when you're not thinking right. Everything is flying about you. Your life is passing in front of your eyes. Everything is wrong. We've all been there. Someone cuts you off in a car, and you are a different person, right? You're filled with rage. Something happens to someone you love, and you're filled with panic. Your heart, you can feel your heart beating. We've all felt this. We've all had this happen. Different things trigger it. Zach couldn't do it. He was getting frustrated. It wasn't working for him. It started to be, there's a movie called The Replacements where the star, what's his name? That actor who did The Matrix, defines it perfectly. It's like being in quicksand. It's a real life analogy. It's like things kept getting worse. And as it got worse, his heart rate picked up and it got worse and it got worse. And he can't do it. And suddenly he couldn't throw a football. An NFL quarterback couldn't throw a football 5 yards. It went into the dirt. What do you think happened? Why do you think that happened? Do you know how? I mean, not only does it not happen to us, right, where I could throw a 10-yard pass every time practically, right? How could it happen to an NFL football player? An NFL football player, leagues better than we could ever imagine being in our lives. Right? We're talking about guys that are so good. He's top 50 in the world at it. Top 50 in the world. Right? And I'm not, because I don't want to get into an argument. Is he the 30th best, the 35th best? Top 50 in the world. All he does is throw footballs. That's all he does. His whole life, for years and years, throwing and throwing. Suddenly he can't throw a 5-yard pass. You don't think something's wrong? See, this is the problem. We get so into the sport part and say, oh, it slipped or this or that. He was distracted. No, they're people. They don't stop being human beings. When things are going wrong, he's a person. His emotions he lost control of his emotions. It happens all the time in football. Suddenly you get a receiver who's really good. And in the game, he's dropping every pass. What's going on? It's all up here. It's real. And I know some people you're saying, oh, he's been like that. Right, he's been struggling for weeks. But it wasn't like it was that New England game. The week before against Buffalo, they won. He threw for 70%. So, yes, he had some incompletions, but it wasn't piled up. Like, you got to look at his face during that game. Watch the replay of New England. That's why when we say watch the All-22 and watch the replay, everyone's saying it's so much worse than you think, because you realize, oh, my God, it wasn't just a quarterback playing bad. He was having a panic attack on the field. He was in emotional distress. He couldn't throw a football. That's nothing to do with the other weeks before that. That wasn't happening the weeks before that. The weeks before that, he wasn't not able to throw a football. He threw for over 300 yards against New England. He had 3 bonehead interceptions. He beat Buffalo and had a 101 quarterback rating. It's not what happened. This wasn't anything like the Zach we saw in the previous weeks. We've never seen Zach like this. We rarely see any quarterback like this. This was a quarterback literally having an emotional breakdown in front of the world. It looked different than when Antonio Brown did it and took his shirt off and danced off of that field for the rest to end his career. It looked different than that, but it was an emotional meltdown just like that. And we saw what it looked like in his play. I'm not exaggerating or embellishing. He was literally standing in the pocket. I could show you footage of it. It's unbelievable. It's like someone paid him to lose. He was standing in the middle of the pocket looking straight at Denzel Mims. He was looking. You could see his face looking downfield, and Denzel Mims was not covered. It was a broken play. Waving his hands, and Zach didn't throw the ball. He did this, and he took the sack. You have to understand. It's real. He was totally having an emotional breakdown. It's very, very true. I'm being looked at by students because I'm all emotional. And that's it. It's very, very real. So there's no way. I'm an 8.5, but I'm at work and I literally had students looking through the door because they said, who's that guy freaking out in there? But I'm telling you, he was literally having a breakdown. And I don't think you're really understanding it if you're saying, oh, well, he was struggling for weeks. It wasn't mechanics at that point. Yes, the mechanics led to the breakdown. The mechanics led to him having bad passes. But Eric, that's not what happened. What happened is he went to a different place. If you understand mental health, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I've seen this before. It could be in any aspect of your life. It just happened to be on a football field. He lost his brain. He was in the big back part of his brain. There's a science to this. It's real. They study this. They can tell brain activity. They have, and they can put you in different moods and tell what part of your brain is the most active. When you're having a panic attack, it's the back of your brain. That's not the part of your brain that has logical thinking and processing. I'm telling you, it was very obvious what was happening to him if you watch it again. If you watch his mannerisms on the sideline. And then finally, if you watch what he said to the media, do you honestly believe that a Zach Wilson that's calm and reflective, after throwing for 70 yards and having that game, would look at the media and say, I'm not sorry about how I played? Do you honestly believe that? I mean, if you really believe that, I don't know, take some psychology classes. It's not even classes, it's life experience. I mean, I get the benefit of seeing it every day because I'm seeing humans every day at them, like humans, like kids, young ones and teenagers. I'm seeing them all day in different situations. It's like a human experiment at school when you work at a school. And your job is to help them emotionally and provide emotional support. And you see the difference between, I look at a kid and know by his face, is this Hector going to be the Hector has a great conversation with me and has a good day? Or is this the Hector I'm going to have to come visit 3 times in the classroom and help get through the day because of something that's going on at home in his life? He was having a breakdown. He had an emotional breakdown. He did, because he would never be that bad, even when he's struggling and his mechanics. Like, it would never be that bad. You know what I mean? Like, it would never be that bad. He broke down mentally. And that's a good point. Yeah. Like, when we say he can't handle it mentally, that's a real concern, E-Rock. It's a real concern. Will he ever be able to handle it mentally? I believe, for the sake of my kids and my students, I have to believe that you can get them to be able to handle things in life and keep and control your emotions. And that's something that's teachable and put into practice, because I would hate to think that all my students that lose control of themselves and have meltdowns, you're screwed, your life's going to stink. Like, I would hope there's a way we can, we actually are trying to help. It's called, social emotional intelligence, SEL, social emotional learning. It's a real thing now that we're trying to teach our kids, and we should learn as adults, because we all are victims of this. We all have made bad decisions based on our emotions. So it's a real thing. By the way, I am going to do a YouTube channel, a separate one about this. So I'm glad this is happening, because it's inspiring me, because I want people to understand more about what percentage of your life has been impacted by decisions you made, and what emotional state were you in when you made the decision. Like, think about it. So you know how many people that are in jail for violence was because they made a decision at the worst possible time to make a decision, right? And that led to violence. Whereas if they could have walked away from that situation, thought about it, they wouldn't have committed the violent act. So I used to get annoyed by people when they told me, just breathe. And now I know, oh, no. There's a science to that. So I'm going to leave you. I have to go to work, but I'm going to leave you with this piece of advice, okay? Now that we're on the subject. If you're upset about something and you have to make a decision, if your wife or girlfriend or whatever boyfriend says something to piss you off, and you're about to say something horrible to them or do something or react to them, stop. Walk away. Say, I'm going to walk away now. And whatever you were going to do, come back in an hour and decide, is that still what you want to do? And I promise you, almost every time, you'll come up with a better decision and you'll do something a lot smarter and a lot less damaging to your life. I leave you with that. Have a great day. Can't wait to see everyone on Green Bean's channel for the game. We'll be there. Green Bean Jets fan will be there. And let's hope we beat the Vikings. Go Jets.
Don't not beat Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh my God, they don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge.
The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get Jacoby Dean. We can get Jacoby Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy.
Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge